Hi all, welcome back to Advanced Wars by Web Road to 1K. That's the series where I analyze my old Global League matches and do that to improve my Advanced Wars play, and hopefully yours too. This week's match is a very standard match. It's a standard Tier 4 match on the map Shadows Chase You Endlessly against user Wilson Te. At a rating of around 850. So this will be a very beginner fundamentals based match with just basic lower tier COs. Which doesn't mean they're not powerful. It just means that they're not as good as some crazy ones. Capture limit for this match is 34, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So to start off with, tier 4 is these COs right here. Usually it's gonna be a decision between Adder and Jake. For standard, I generally tend to err on the side of Jake. But there are exceptions to this. You could, depending on the map, you could play Jess or maybe Cole. Or if you really want to be Mimi, just play Sonya or Grim. But basically you would only want to opt for Jess or Cole on maps without plains or with lots of roads, and I'll explain that in a little bit once we get back to the map. Once we actually see the map. And then Adder's just good all around, so he's always going to be a generally good pick, but that's basically it. For this match, I picked Jake because Jake's a pretty good mindless pick for standard, because I think on most maps, he's really good anyways, in general. So the reason Jake's good is he has an extra comm tower when he's on planes, attacking from planes with all of his units. And that includes area units. I imagine it would include naval units, like battleships, in the event that you have some pre-deployed battleship on planes. Which will never happen, because that would be stupid. But anyways, his small power gives him an extra comm tower plus an extra range for land indirects. So that's mainly going to be your artillery. So Jake's going to want Jake. If you're playing Jake, you want to put out a couple more artillery usually because of the extra range on his power. But usually when you're playing when you're playing Jake, you're going to want to opt for his Block Rock because that's going to give him an extra 2 movement on his vehicles. And it's going to boost his planes bonus to +4, or plus 40%. I'm just going to say +4 to simplify it, but yeah. The reason his planes bonus is good is because a lot of times, and especially when you're comparing him to Jess, and in standard as well, is that this is the important unit for this isn't really his air units or even his direct units, but it's going to be his infantry, because the +10 attack power on planes is going to come into play when you're attacking into cities with infantry from planes, and that's where it starts to get important, especially once you start to stack it with comm towers and stuff. The other reason I like Jake on standard as opposed to Fog, because I actually like Jess more in Fog because recons and forests are better, as a quick reasoning. But the reason Jake, I feel, is much better in standard than in Fog is because his indirect range thing is going to be a lot more usable when you're actually able to see the entire map and plan out where your indirects go and threaten with them. The important thing is threatening with your indirect. You can threaten with them much more effectively when your opponent knows where they are. So there's a quick thing on that. And then Adder, it doesn't show that, but it's a 2-3 for his power. So his day to day is just normal firepower, but he gets extra movements, as well as the extra firepower and defense from just popping his power, because that. But he's basically going to have some extra movement on all of his units every few days once you really start grinding, throwing units into the meat grinder. So that's really useful, mainly because it's also giving movement to his indirects. I mean, not indirects. To his infantry. And he and Cole are, Cole I think are like two of them. Him, Cole, and Andy are the only ones that get extra movement on their infantry. But him and Cole can generally just spam their normal power. Now Cole has the attack and power bonus on roads, and he has the 3-2 as opposed to the 2-3 for his power. So you really only want to opt for Cole as opposed to Adder when there's a lot of roads. So let's take a look at the map here. Now for this map specifically, I feel like Cole might be better than Adder because of all the roads. But there's also a bunch of, I don't think it's necessarily as good as the 2-3 split on the power, which you'll see a little bit. But yeah, in this map in particular, I'm not sure Jake is necessarily the best option, because if you're looking at the contested cities, a lot of them don't really have that many plains tiles to attack from adjacently. So Jake can't really use his plains bonus that effectively. It's not going to come into as much of a play. So I feel like Adder is a bit better on this map than he normally would be, just because Jake's not as good. Now that being said, they're both really viable. But let's actually go for a quick thing about where you're going to be wanting to push your units. So some important places for this map are player 1 is brown. Okay, so this will be player 1, this will be player 2. I think I was player 2 on this map. So basically, some important areas for these units are going to be these islands right here, because they have the airport and the comm tower right next to each other in this nice little spot. You got these secluded little properties in the corners here. And the reason why that's interesting is if you don't get to them early-ish, they can be harassed fairly easily by battlecopters. So that can be annoying. And the other thing about these little islands is you can't really... there aren't really any spots for you to use landers on them. There's a spot here, there's shows around here, I like the black button in this map because it's really fun to... There are a lot of things that you can do with them in this map, as you will see in a bit. But basically, these areas are going to be important to try and capture. And then you just got the center here, and then these areas around the comm towers and airports. The closer ones to your base. So this island is more so for player 1. This island up here is more so for player 2, because these properties are a little bit closer to the base here. And then normally these areas are going to be player 1, player 2. Probably going to be player 1, player 2, right? Because you got the bases there. But these islands are a bit more contestable, slightly more, because you got the the transport copters, you got the black belts, you got all that stuff. So let's take a look at the map analysis page. And this is actually a pretty even map, all things considered, especially for a tier 4. Now this may be, a thing to note for this is if you're doing lower tier, win rates might not be as drastic, because a lot of people sometimes go up tiers, so they bring Jake or someone to tier 2 or something like that, it's something you can do, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you have a really specific thing that you're going for. But as you can see, I think it's around 50% win rate for Jake. Yeah, 50 Jake. Adder, I think even just is 47. So basically Jake and Adder are basically dead even in win rate for this map. I will go with that. Cole is 38%. So yeah, basically on this map you're gonna want to choose between either Jake or Adder. or coal, or you can meme if you want, but like if you're playing seriously, you don't really want to meme because it's just it builds bad habits usually. But I guess we'll just jump into the replay then. This one isn't super long, is it? No, it's only 14 days, so this should be a bit of a shorter video. But it should show off a couple of basic fundamentals and then some things that you can do with black belts. So first thing here, pretty standard, just moving in with infantry, black belt. Going for the close by cities first to get that extra bit of income. And then for here, what he's opting to do is move around his black belt to probably, I'm assuming that it's so that he can use it to transport his units. What I'm opting to do with my black belt is harass his infantry. I gotta reload this one up. So this is a little bit of a rude strat that you can do on this map. Is you can harass your opponent's infantry, and you'll see me do this for great effect. Now, and this doesn't just work on infantry. This also works for delaying his other reinforcement units as well. And because it's a black boat, basically the only thing that's super viable to taking it out is going to be artillery. At least from the land unit perspective. Once you get like a bomber, maybe that could be good. Subs aren't a good option against it because you can just dart in and out of the shoals and the subs can't really deal with it. So there's that. I go for the airport straight away. He's finally able to break through a little bit over here. But as you can see, I'm going ahead. Oh, I also did early recon to harass this area even more, which is something you can do on this map a little bit. He's right there. He's using his. He moved in with his transport to movement boost his infantry, which is always a nice little tech to do. You're always going to there are videos on this on YouTube, of course, for optimal. For super optimal transport movement. As a rule of thumb, you don't necessarily have to have your transports super optimal all the time. Now here's where it just gets really annoying for him. I gotta say, I was being a little bit trolling on this map with the this black boat, not gonna lie. But yeah, as you can see, he's moving in like this. He builds an anti-air response to my battlecopter, which is smart. And that's part of why it's a bit more interesting to move in with battlecopters and stuff early on in maps. But in this map, I feel like battlecopters are actually pretty good because there's a lot of spots where you can hide them from anti-air and stuff. And usually people just build anti-air in response to battlecopters. And that's generally the correct move as well, is you're going to want to do that. Now that is a bit an interesting move, going in with the weakened unit and then finishing off with the full health infantry. I think I agree with this because you don't really need to preserve health on the 6 health infantry. At that point, it's not really as useful. But you do want to make sure that because there's not much of a difference in capturing in the capture game between a 6 health infantry and a 3 health infantry, but there's a big difference. There's like a turn difference between a 10 health infantry and a 9 health infantry, which is what he would have gotten if he had attacked with the infantry. Now I'm opting for another recon here, which is just interesting, I guess. Well here, I think. Yeah, he goes in and takes out my recon finally. He should with his infantry. Yeah. But I've basically just been harassing him down here and delaying this capture, as well as the comm tower capture for quite a while. I think I've held off on the comm tower for a while, mainly because I knew he couldn't get his, so I don't really need it yet. moving that into there. And the reason I do that is because I want to move it like that. And as you can see, I've blocked off his anti-air from falling up on my battlecopter. So that was a free infantry kill with a battlecopter there. Nothing's really in range of his artillery either, so that's all good for me, and I got to go for that. I have to interrupt here. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the best option because he has all of his infantry here. So that's a bit, I'd say that's a little bit aggressive, but we'll see if it pays off. If I'm able to leave his capture for more than like one turn, that's definitely worth it, but not that. And then here, I'm actually moving my black boat back here to block this tank. So I'm able to move in a little bit further with my own tank to start threatening his stuff over here. So there's that. That's another thing you can do with always consider how to just blocking units with your black boats or transports. It's always a really useful thing for transports, especially black boats, because they can take a lot for land units, whereas transport copters and APCs really can't. But he's moving in with his second tank. He's got this nice little clump of units here, so that's good for him. But at this point, yeah, I opt to continue harassing his infantry here with my recon, which I'm able to do because he left it a little bit open. He's not going to be able to capture this next turn, so just annoying for him. I move in with my infantry to weaken his infantry presence in this area even more. So it's looking like he might not even be able to capture this unit, this city, which is, it just goes to. But you know what I didn't do? This is a classic beginner's mistake, right? I didn't capture the comm tower until the end of my turn. So I could have done even more damage to his units the entire time if I had chosen to do that, but I guess nah, that's not happening. Here, so here I'm basically going, okay, this infantry, I'm not going to be able to do much with it other than because of this tank here, and this anti-air as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to capture here. I'm going to threaten to capture on his property, which makes it important for him to try and move into capture that back. Well, interrupt that, because then I'm denying. Not only am I gaining. It's a little bit more important than a neutral city, because now not only am I gaining 1,000 gold if I get this, I'm also denying him 1,000 gold per turn. So that's interesting. And then I choose to move in with my battlecopter over here to try and draw the anti-air over here, away from this action, so that hopefully next turn I can just dart back in. And then I've got this other battlecopter here as well. So I'm trying to. He's basically trying to get his anti-air to go. Well, I've got to pick one way to go, and then I'm also potentially forcing him to build another anti-air here, which is good for me because the more anti-air he builds, the more I can punish him with tanks, and the more I can just dart around with battlecopters. So that's the main idea here. I got another tank here, building an artillery to try and push into the southern island a little bit. And I'm also delaying his reinforcement with a tank by a considerable amount over here. So instead of having 2 tanks in the direct area here, he's only going to really have 1. So he can't really move in against my tank here. I'm also capping him there, but anyways, he actually opts to just leave his anti-air right here and go for the take out the infantry, which I think is a fine play on his part. He actually goes here to take a shot at my recon instead of going for the cap here, which is interesting on his part. When I think he could have gone for the attack from here and started capping here with his full health infantry if he wanted to. He gets the shot off here, but his infantry presence here isn't really strong enough where I feel like he can take phase, but we'll see how that ends up paying off. He moves in a little bit with, oh my god, what did I do there? I'm gonna just reload. Next, so that's the end of his turn basically. But he's gonna get his comm tower next turn. I'm running low on fuel on my black boat actually, which is funny. But he's starting to run low too, so. I'm basically capturing a lot of, as you can see, I'm ahead in income fairly considerably, so. Move in and get a nice shot off on the anti-air, which lets me move in a bit more with my battlecopters if I want to, which I do. And he's not going to be able to punish that with this fresh anti-air, even if he pops his power next turn, so that's good. That's really good for me. And then I move this guy back over this way to basically protect my units here. I steal that. I'm actually able to take that city, which I didn't really think I would be able to do that, but I guess I did, and I'm going for this cap as well. So that's good on my part. Fall back a bit here, and now it's his turn. So he moves in on this stubborn island here. Takes out my recon finally, which I actually like recon pretty much. They're not as good as on standard as they are on fog, but they're good at drawing fire from your more expensive units like your tanks and your battlecopters. So that's good. He has this nice little formation right here that I can't really attack into super effectively. Although I do have another tank in range. Well, I think he moves in with his black belt, maybe? He should move in with his black belt. No. Not yet. He should have moved in with his black belt right here. So that he'd force me to... So that he can't... He's not leaving his artillery open like that, but whatever. I actually opt to do that, which I think is actually maybe a bit of a mistake. It's a little bit aggressive. But I do get that. I'm able to get this shot off on his tank. So at least I'm getting a little bit of gains here. I have the artillery here to guard this area, so he can't really go after my anti-air at all. And I think the anti-air I mainly have here to guard this artillery. I can't really move in with the artillery any further because I don't have that many units here to guard it with yet. So I move in like that. Which honestly, I should have probably attacked from the city if I were gonna do that. And then I move in like that, which is super aggressive with my battlecopter. But at this point, my other battlecopter's already in the range of this anti-air if he pops his power anyways. So I don't think it really matters too much. And I go for a bomber here to keep on pushing hard on this area. Which he got his HQ here, so he can't really afford to let this area fall. Honestly, I think I'm maybe overextending a little bit, but this map only has 2 bases. So if you're up ahead like I am here, it's actually totally fine to be a little bit aggressive with pushes like this. And since I'm making gains in this area, pushing in like this is helping me secure these properties here, if that makes sense. Yep. So he pops his side slip. He could have maybe saved up for super, but honestly, I think generally just popping I think generally just Adder just wants to pop his power LA, so that's good for him. He's actually almost takes out my tank here, which is kind of funny, but not quite. Here I'm finally capturing this city in a couple of turns still. He takes out my battlecopter, obviously. He does some damage there with the weakened artillery. It's not too much. It does some damage there. He goes ahead and that's the other nice thing that you can use black bolts for. You can actually use them to repair your own units. I think it costs you money, as you can see his funds went down. But it's another utility for black bolts. As you can see, he's still able to block off this choke point pretty well for my land units anyway, so I don't think it's bad. So he's actually able to knock me off of that city there, which is fun on my part. But I immediately just pop my block rock, and as you can see, block rock's just crazy. So start off with this artillery shot from the plains. So he can just say goodbye to his tank. I think if Edipin was, I'm pretty sure if Edipin was at full health, it would die too. Actually, let's just double check the damage on that. So actually, no, because he had his power up. If he didn't have his power up, it would have killed 100% of the time. But it's able to do that, so I'm able to fall back with my tank due to the extra move, and then I'm able to move in with my anti-air. I'm able to move it like halfway across the map, take out his battlecopter here, and start threatening this area. So that's fun. I move back with this. Actually, not exactly sure why I do it like that. I guess just to restock my artillery maybe. Moving with my moving with my bomber like crazy over here, which is, that's a really aggressive move, I gotta say. But since I'm up by 10k, I can afford it. Even if I lose this bomber for this, I can definitely afford it. So I move in on the tanks, and on the anti-air, and then I've got a mech here guarding my bomber. So if he moves in with his anti-air on it, he's gonna take a pretty hard shot on it from my mech. So I'm building my other units. He moves in. I think he's gonna pop his power again at some point, because I'm pretty sure he realized that he needed the defense and attack. I don't think he really wanted to move so much this turn, but he definitely wanted the defense and attack. As you can see, he's able to finish off my tank there. So it's actually able to do a pretty good amount with that. But as you can see, the income rate is kind of crazy. So I'm able to just wander in and finish off his anti-air units like that. And then I think I block off his anti-air here as well with my other units. Yeah, like that. So if he wants, he'd probably be able to move in if he really wanted and take out my thing like that. But as you can see, his anti-air is kind of trapped on this island now, which is a cheeky move on my part. And then I've got this area over here as well. I've got my anti-air back to guard the artillery. I've got a medium tank to start pushing into this island as well. I'm ahead 9k in income, so he drops it down to 7, but it's still like an extra tank every turn. So of course he resigns at the end of his turn because I'm way ahead in just sheer income. And I think that's part of what the issue was for him. He didn't go for these cities like at all. He was able to secure that. I think he went a bit aggressive this way with his infantry, as opposed to consolidating and grabbing up his cities here. As you can see, this city, he definitely should have 100% gotten that. It's only like 2 turns from his base, but he ended up opting for pushing his infantry other places, and he ended up not getting it ever. This one too. This is a city that you should get basically turn 1, not turn 1, but turn 3 or 4. One of the first properties you should always end up getting because it's so close to your base. But I think that's about it for this video. Next week's video is going to be a Max v Max match. And boy, do I have opinions about Max. Max is a Max. Especially when you have basically an uncontested comm tower. That's always fun when Max basically has 30% extra firepower on his direct units. It basically just becomes whoever gets the first strike wins. And that's it. It's so ridiculous. But anyways, that'll be next week's video, so make sure to tune in for that if you're interested. It'll be going up next Wednesday. So I think that's everything for this week, though. So, just hope to see you guys next week. Other than that, peace. I'm out.